Hi, my name is Mickey Hudson, and I'm a Pfaff educator, and I'm here to talk about some tips and tricks with the Pfaff Creative Ribbon Embroidery attachment. First off, what types of ribbon can you use? Um, Pretty much anything that will slide through the ribbon guides and the adjustable guide. As long as it's flowing smoothly through those, you can use them on the Creative Ribbon Embroidery attachment. Here's an example. This is an example of ribbon yarn. Ribbon yarn, as you can see, this one is quite fluffy. Ribbon yarn comes in a variety of textures, so go ahead and experiment and see how they work for you. There are some things that you may want to avoid. As tempting as these are, this is sari fabric that has been cut into strips, and believe me, they're tempting. But as tempting as they do have seams in it where they've connected the fabrics, and those seams do not slide through the guides. They end up getting hooked up, and it puts wear and tear on the attachment itself. Plus, your design no longer wants to feed through. It just creates a mess. So do kind of keep an eye out for those fabrics and yarns that have texture in them, knots in them, or seams. Chenille is another one that I keep experimenting with it, but it does have a seam there, right there. So every once in a while, that seam causes me trouble. So you do want to kind of keep an eye out for that when you're choosing out-of-the-box ribbons and fabrics. Sizes of ribbon can be anything from 1/8 of an inch to 5/8 of an inch. And my Sewnet library will include the length of the ribbon needed. Designs will look different depending on what width of ribbon that you use. And some designs actually look better with narrower ribbon. So here's an example where I used 1/8 of an inch and 3/8 of an inch. So you can see how some designs are going to look different depending on the width of the ribbon. So when you're working with different sizes of ribbon, we are going to need to adjust the ribbon embroidery attachment pivot height. So wider ribbon designs with a lot of curves, they're going to need a higher pivot point or a pivot height. So how you're going to change that is you can change that in your settings. So here we will come down and go to our settings. And when the Creative Ribbon Embroidery attachment is attached, you will see that there's an option for it. So this is where we will change the pivot height or lower the pivot height depending on which ribbons we are working with. Something else that gets asked from time to time is which way should the ribbon be wound on the ring. So ribbon that has a right side and a wrong side, when you wind this on, if you make sure that the right side is facing you, that is the side that will stitch face up when it stitches down. Or if you're going to use two different ribbons at the same time, like you see here, you would put the smaller ribbon to you. So that would be what the smaller ribbon is, what we would see as we were winding them on. So whatever side you're looking at when you wind it on the ring is the side that's going to stitch face up onto the fabric. Once your design is finished, there are a couple of things that you can do with the ribbon ends. So you can either leave them, or you can have them part of the design, or you can cut them. Now I could cut this one even farther because it's tucked nicely underneath. But you can cut it at an angle to prevent fraying. And then if you use a fray block, a fray stop, or a fray check, those will also prevent the ends from fraying even further. So your dealers will have one of those three, fray block, fray stop, or fray check. The other is to pull the end to the back. There's a couple of ways to do this. You can use a tapestry needle, which does have a large eye, which ribbon goes through quite nicely. Or my favorite is the double-eyed needle. And most of your dealers can either have these or can get these. But they have a nice eye and they're sharp on the very pointy point. So I pull those right, use these to pull my ribbon ends to the back. But you can see how nice that looks right there. So what do you do if you've miscalculated your ribbon length? Well, there is a fix for that. One thing that you may want to think about is, do I want to continue with the same ribbon or do I want to change my ribbon? So here's an example where I miscalculated. And instead of continuing with the same ribbon, I changed the ribbon. So that you can either do that on accident or you can do it on purpose. But the actions of what you need to do are the same. You will need to unplug the Creative Ribbon Embroidery attachment and make sure that everything is lined up here at the front. Once this is unplugged, the ring will move freely, so you can line up your first two marks here. And then this last one, we'll just turn that ring and get it all lined up, and we'll just go ahead and remove it. So once you have it out, you can just go ahead and refill your Creative Ribbon Embroidery attachment ring and reattach it. You can go ahead and go into Stitch Out Progress and back up a couple of stitches if you would like. So you would do the same thing if your bobbin runs out or if you have to change your thread or rethread. So you would just unplug it, remove it. But in this case, you don't cut the ribbon. So you just want to move the Creative Ribbon Embroidery attachment out of the way enough that you can get to your bobbin or rethread. But when you put the Creative Ribbon Embroidery attachment back on, all you'll need to do is go ahead and wind that ribbon back on like we do at the beginning. We'll just tighten it right back up and you're good to go. Don't forget to plug it back in. Now, if you want to do applique like you see here, it is nice to have a stitch out so that you can trim your fabric away to the size that you need. Now, ribbon embroidery designs, they want that ribbon embroidery attachment. So you need to kind of change that ribbon embroidery programming. So the best way to do that is to just load a design and change the color. So once we have the design loaded and we want to remove the ribbon embroidery programming, we can go right over here to Color Edit. And right here you will see the color. And if you touch and hold, it'll bring up your color selection. So you can just go ahead and pick a different color, tell it okay, and you can see here that the ribbon embroidery icon has left. It's now regular stitches. Now, if you're used to doing machine embroidered applique, you know that they come out in threes. It'll do an outline, so you know where to put your fabric, and it'll do another stitch that you can cut away your fabric, and then it'll do your final stitch. So you can go ahead and load as many as you'd like to get the layout that you would like. The only thing, the professional tip that I recommend is to make sure that you center each design so that they land on top of each other. So be sure to center. One final little thing that I would like to show you is if you find that you're in this kind of situation, and I do it all the time myself, which is why I want to show you, is that if you look in here, you might see that I have some scratches here. I'm going to show you how to avoid those. Okay, I'm going to be using the foot up, foot down function buttons. So if you see, if I go all the way and touch the down, it goes down. If I touch the foot up, it'll go up. And if I touch once more, it goes into the extra lift. So if your foot is in that extra lift, you are going to get scratches. So if you would like to, before you take it off or before you put it on, just push, the foot all the way down to the bottom and then just lift it up the one. And that way it is always in the right position. So there you have it, a few tips and tricks to get you on your way. So happy stitching, and I hope to see you all soon. Bye.